amazing. You guys can go ahead and grab a seat. We'll do high fives afterward. I got you. I like the Spider-Man shirt, though. Afterwards, I got you. Valley View students. Where are you guys coming from? Where's it? Coming from Dallas? Okay, I got you. Well, guys, like they said earlier, my name is Zach, and I have the privilege of coming to you tonight from Atlanta. And so woke up in Atlanta this morning, and now here we are in Waxahachie, Texas. So here we go. You're an Atlanta guy? There we go. Give it up for Atlanta. You guys don't have to do that. But, man, I am so excited to be with you guys tonight. Man, I am actually a high school pastor, but everybody knows that middle school students have more fun. Is that true? Do you guys have more fun than high school students? So that means I expect that we're going to have a good time tonight. But for me, I love CIY. I grew up going to CIY. I actually got called into ministry at CIY, so it's super special for me to be able to be here tonight with you guys. I think that it's going to be a really fun time. But that's enough about me. I kind of need to know a little bit about the room. Where are my sixth graders at in the room? Are y'all anywhere in here? Okay, that was cool, but my favorite year of middle school was seventh grade. So do I got any seventh graders in the room? Okay. And then I gotta ask the big man on campus, where are my eighth graders at? Y'all anywhere? Okay, I was not ready for that. But man, I think that tonight's gonna be really great, and I'm really excited to be with a room full of middle schoolers tonight. But I got to start by asking a question real quick. Does anybody in here play a sport? Anybody play a sport in here? On the count of three, I need everybody to yell out the sport that they play. 1, 2, 3. If I was a man of the people, I would act like I probably heard something you said, but I really didn't. But so for me, I grew up playing football. That was kind of my main sport. I grew up playing in elementary school, middle school, high school, into college. But I think I might have said earlier, I'm actually from Indiana. And so if you want to know anything about Indiana, the number one sport that people play in Indiana, does anybody know? Basketball. That's the sport. So whether or not that's your sport or not, that's the sport you have to grow up liking if you grow up in Indiana. And so for me, that was something that I always loved. It wasn't my main sport, but I always loved playing it. And even as I've gotten old, I will still play basketball. I have a group message with some guys, and I was actually playing a couple months ago, and I was with these guys, and I'm not going to lie, like I was on fire this game. Like I had hit like 3 or 4 threes, and at the end of the game, it's game point. And so game point means that the game's about to be over. If we score this possession, then we win. And so I get past the ball, and so I'm like, okay, I'm about to take this dude to the bucket. And so I take 2 dribbles, take 2 steps. I'm about to get this layup, and on the last step, I hear a pop in the bottom of my leg. Can somebody say, uh-oh? And so a pop in the bottom of your leg is not something that you want to hear. And so at the end of it, I'm walking around, and I wasn't walking around. I was kind of limping around. I couldn't really walk. As I get home, it starts to hurt a little bit more, and I end up going to the doctor. And what they said was that I had strained my Achilles tendon, which is, it's not fun. It could be much worse, but I strained it. And so I let it rest for a little bit. I thought it was starting to get a little bit better. About a month later, I was able to do some stuff. You know, I'd done some stuff on the bike. I'd went on a run. I felt good. I was like, maybe I can play basketball again. And so I go back with the crew. First possession, everything's good. Second possession, I try to step off it again, and I'm like, oh, that does not feel right. And so instantly, I stopped playing, and I haven't played since then. And even this past week, the guys that I play with are like, Zach, when are you coming back to play basketball? And it's so frustrating because I literally cannot play right now. But it's funny. It's funny because like everything else in my body feels fine. Like my head feels fine. Like I can see everything. Like I feel like my core is good. Like my arms feel good. Like my left leg is good. Most of my right leg is good. But the only thing that hurts on my entire body is my Achilles. But because my foundation is messed up, it affects everything else in my body. Just because of this one tiny part of my body, because it is hurt, it's affecting my ability to do lots of things. Because one thing I want you to know tonight is that your foundation is something that's incredibly important. I have a son who's almost 2 years old, and he loves playing with Magna-Tiles. Did anybody grow up playing with Magna-Tiles? Anybody in here? And so my 2-year-old son, he loves playing with these little Magna-Tiles. And again, he's not even 2. He's going to be 2 next month. And so he can't understand and comprehend a lot of the stuff. But the first time that we ever built like a Magna-Tile house, like you know you have to build like a really big base, right? And the more firm your base is, the higher you can build the house or the tower. And what my son loves doing is he loves building it up really high and then just knocking it over because he's a menace, and that's his thing that he loves to do. But again, he can't really understand like the concept that like there has to be like a strong base. And so he'll just try to start stacking them up. But again, you can't get very far if you don't have that base. But he's not able to fully comprehend yet. Like if you don't build that firm foundation, even with these Magna-Tiles, your house that he's trying to build, the tower that he's trying to build is not going to be able to stand. And so tonight, we're going to be talking about the importance of a foundation. And I know this week we've been going through this idea of the rest of your life. And there's been a lot of different things that we've been learning. We know that we learned about Jesus and how he said, come to me, and that he would give us rest. We talked about how Jesus is a shepherd, but he's not just any shepherd. He is the good shepherd who would lay down his life for his sheep. And he's a shepherd that's able to offer eternal life. And even earlier, we talked about the first half of Psalm 23:6, where it says, surely your goodness and love will follow me all of my days. And tonight, we're going to be looking at the latter half of that verse. It starts out, surely your goodness and mercy will follow me all of my days. And then the last part of it says, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And there's a song that I've been listening to. I don't know if you guys like listening to Christian music, but there's a song right now called Good Plans. And the bridge of the song, it like starts to build. And it's just this verse right here. It's like, surely your goodness and mercy will follow after me. You guys think I can sing? They said, oh, y'all don't think I should be up here with the worship team? But it sings this verse right here, and it's like, surely your goodness and mercy will follow me all of my days, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And when I think about that last part about dwelling in the house of the Lord forever, the thing that I want you to know so clearly tonight is that to dwell in the house of the Lord is to dwell and to live in a house that has a firm foundation. A firm foundation. And the thing that I know to be so true about your generation is that you guys have access to more things than any generation ever has before. And it's so easy to just end up living a life that is so fast-paced and it's so hurried, and you go from one thing to the next. Even this past Sunday, I was talking to our high school students about how sometimes we just need to slow down because it's so easy. It's like I'm here, and then I'm here, and then I'm at this practice, and then I'm at this recital, and I'm at this theater thing, and I got all of these different things that are going on in my life. But the thing that is so true about Jesus is that Jesus showed us a different way of life. There's a reason that the phrase that often gets used about being a Christian is it says that we walk with Jesus. It doesn't say that we run. It says that we walk with him. And I want you to know tonight that we have the opportunity to rest in Jesus. And I talked about it before, but the question that I want you to really ponder and think about tonight is, where is your house built? Where is your house built? And so I know we talked about Psalm 23:6, but we're going to hop into a story that Jesus talks about in Luke chapter 6. And so if you have a Bible, you can go ahead and open up to Luke chapter 6. It'll be on the screen. But there's this moment where Luke is writing, and he talks about this story that Jesus tells. And there's a couple different people in the story. And the thing that I want you to think about when we read this story is, where are you in this story? Where do you find yourself in this story in Luke chapter 6? And it's at the very end of the chapter in verse 47. And here's what it says in Luke chapter 6, verse 47. It says, I will show you what it's like when someone comes to me and listens to my teaching and then follows it. In verse 48, Jesus says it's like a person building a house who digs deep and lays the foundation on solid rock. And when the floodwaters rise and break against that house, it stands firm because it is well built. But anyone who hears and doesn't obey is like a person who builds a house right on the ground without a foundation. When the floods sweep down against the house, it will collapse into a heap of ruins. And so in Luke chapter 6, we see that there's a couple people in this story. Jesus says that he wants to show them, hey, anyone who would hear my teaching, he says that there's a couple different people who, once you hear it, that you may find yourself as this person. He says that there's two builders. And he says that the builders that are in this story, they have the same tools. They are in the same environment. They both have a task that they need to build a house. And so two builders begin to build a house, but at the end of the story, it says that even though they had the same tools, even though they're in the same environment, even though they're in the same space, even though they had the same opportunity, it says that there are a couple different outcomes with the two houses. And so how do these people end up with two houses that are different, even though they had all of the same opportunities? Well, the answer is that one of them began to build their house a little bit faster than they should, and they kind of shortcut a couple of processes. But it says that there was another builder who took a little bit more time, and they dug a little bit deeper. And they say that house was built on a rock. And you may say, Zach, like I'm 12 years old. Why in the world are you telling me about building a house? Like I'm not trying to go out and be Bob the Builder and build a house tonight. Like I'm not trying to do that. But the question I would have, or maybe even the statement I would have, is that this isn't about building a physical house, but where are you as a sixth grader, as a seventh grader, as an eighth grader? Where are you building the foundation of your life? Are you building it on the rock, or maybe are you building it just on top of the ground, or maybe even building it on the sand? Because the builder it says that he built it on the ground. It says that as he did that the house, when the flood began to hit the house, that the house didn't stand. And so I think about that builder as even me when I was in middle school. You see, I was somebody who grew up in church. I was someone who knew a lot of Bible verses. I knew a lot of things. But when I was in middle school, I remember I had a lot of hard things that began to happen in my life. Like I remember my parents had split up and they had gotten a divorce. I remember my oldest brother got into a really bad situation, and all of these different things in my life started to kind of come to a head. And even I remember like we moved like 5 times, like all across the city when I was in middle school. There was a lot of hard things that happened in my life. And again, I could have told you the Bible verses. Like I was always at church, I was always at youth group, but the thing that I began to find out is that there was no foundation and there was no substance to my faith. Like I was somebody, like if somebody came up to me at school and they're like, Zach, like are you a Christian? Do you love Jesus? I would say yes to all of those questions, but I also would have been the guy where if they began to look at my life, there was nothing in my life that would have showed them that I actually cared about Jesus. And I think that's what it means, maybe even to build your house on the sand or build your house on the ground. And when the hard things ended up coming in my life, the house or the foundation of my life began to crumble. And everything was fine until a flood or a storm came, and the storm revealed where my faith was. And really, my faith wasn't in God, but my faith was actually in me. But the thing is that we have the opportunity to not have to build our house on the ground or on the sand, but it says that there was another builder who began to build their house on the rock. And what that builder did is that he took the time to dig just a little bit deeper. He took the time to get to know the shepherd. It's like taking the time to taking a little bit of time out of your day to maybe spend time with Jesus. Maybe you spend some time praying to him. Maybe it's getting more involved in your church, and it's actually doing the things that he says. And I think that when we do those things, that's what it means to build your house on the rock. And so again, it's wild because it says that those builders had the same tools. And what I'm so sure of is that even in this room, you all have been given the tools this week. Because one thing that I'm sure that has happened this week is that everyone in this room, you've heard the words of Jesus. You've learned about the shepherd. You've been able to maybe even see God begin to work in your life. But the question is when you go back home after the last session, when you get on the bus, when you get in your van, you begin to go back home, are you going to put those words into practice? Because if you do, that is what it means to build your house on the rock. But if you don't do that, then that is what it means to just build your house on the ground, and there's not going to be a foundation. And again, I think this is so incredibly important. I was actually just looking at some research not too long ago, especially it was for middle school students. Middle school students filled out this survey. And what it said was that 3 out of 4 middle school students spend at least 3 hours on their phone every single day. And this was like thousands of middle school students. And the thing I would say is that what if you just took a little bit of that time and you began to think about what would it look like to maybe even repurpose that a little bit? What would it look like instead of just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling? What if you just set an alarm on your phone for 5 minutes? For 10 minutes, and you just begin to read things like Psalm 23, and you get to know your shepherd. What if you just set an alarm for a couple minutes on your phone, just set a timer and say, hey, for these few minutes, I'm going to pray with God, and that is how you begin to build these things that become habits. Because here's what I know about a lot of you in this room. There's a lot of you who are good at a lot of things. Some of you, you raised your hand if sports were your thing. Some of you guys might be into things like theater. Some of you guys might be into video games, whatever it may be. And anytime someone gets good at a skill or something like that, it's because they practice it. It's because they put in the time to create these habits. It's because they take the moments in their life to practice over and over and over and over and over and over again. And that's how things become habits. And when you begin to develop these habits of spending time with God, it will change your life. Because something that's so clear about this story is that it says that a flood is going to come. It says that a storm is going to come. Isn't that so interesting? Like both houses, they were built differently, but it says that both houses get hit by a flood. Both houses get hit by a storm. So that doesn't mean when you're a Christian that you're going to be exempt from maybe going through something hard in your life. But if your house is built on a rock, even when the hard things in your life come, you can still rest. Just last month, I found myself in Oklahoma City for the first time, and I had never been there before, and I was actually there to hang out with some other youth pastors, and that's actually where I ended up hearing about that study of middle school students that I told you about. But I was flying out on a Monday morning, and the night before was actually when we have our high school group, and I looked at my phone, and I had an email from the guy who was in charge of the thing I was going to be at. And it said, hey, just want to let you guys know, before you come out here, there's actually going to be a potential for a really bad tornado that's going to hit exactly where we're going to be at. But I just want to let you know that the church that we're going to be in, it's a very strong building. In fact, people actually come here when bad storms or tornadoes hit, so we're going to be safe. But I just wanted to let you know that beforehand. And so I was like, okay, we're gonna be in a strong building, good foundation, all that good stuff. And then so I fly over there, and I'm at this church all day, and I start looking at the weather app, which isn't always a good decision. And on the Weather Channel app, it said that this tornado could be ranked out of 5, and it said that this tornado was about to be a 5 out of 5. So pretty much as bad as it could be, it was like, that's what's about to come. But I'm like, okay, when we get to be in this building, everything's going to be cool. It's going to be all right. But then at the end of our day together, the tornado had actually gotten pushed into the night, and the person in charge, they get up, and they're like, hey, thanks for coming, but actually this building's going to close, and so you got to go be in your hotel. And I'm like, I'm not going back to my hotel. Like, this is a tornado. It is 5 out of 5. Like, I went on the weather app, and it was like that weird color red that you know something bad's about to come, and it's exactly where we were at. And I'm like, I'm not leaving this church. But the thing is that when we did have to leave, like, I was found in this hotel where it's like, I don't know how this building was built. If I was going to choose where I was going to be in a tornado, I wouldn't choose here. And I remember there was a couple other guys who were staying at the same hotel, and we are 3 grown men in one hotel room just watching the weather, seeing where this tornado is about to hit. And if I can be honest with you guys, just want to be honest with you for a second, there was a lot of fear that began to rise up in me. There's a lot of anxiety that began to rise up in me because I knew that a tornado was about to come, and I did not know the foundation of the building I was in. And can I be honest with you? It affected my ability to rest because my mind is just swirling with fear, and I'm like, I do not know what's about to happen. And obviously, we ended up being fine. But the thing that I want you to think about is, what do we do when that's our life? Like when we build our house on a firm foundation, it doesn't matter what storm comes at us in our life. If we build our life on the foundation that is Jesus, I want you to know that you can rest. But if the storms and the floods of life come, and our house isn't built on that firm foundation, I think, friends, that's when the fear begins to rise up. And the anxiety begins to rise up because we really don't know if we are building our house on a firm foundation. And so I wonder, what would it be like if we decided to be a group of 6th graders, of 7th graders, and 8th graders who, when things begin to come up in our life, when storms begin to come, we don't have to fear because we know where our house is built, and we know that it's built on the rock that is Jesus. And the thing that begins to fire me up when I think about what that could look like when you leave Mix this week, because this has been an incredible week. Like, there's going to be so many of you who are going to leave this week, and you're going to say, this was the best week of my life. But what I want so badly for you is for this week to not end here, but it continue to go into your schools. And it would continue to go into your families. And it would continue to go into your friend group. Because you want to know what else happens when you build your life on a firm foundation? When storms come in your life and you know that your foundation is secure, your friends begin to look at you different. And they're like, how can your parents be going through a divorce and it doesn't seem like everything is crumbling in your life? Like, how is it that, I know we've talked about before, you may struggle with anxiety and depression, but it doesn't seem like everything in your life is falling apart. You know what you get to say when your house is built on a firm foundation? You get to have a conversation with someone you love, and you get to say, I am far from perfect, but I know my house is built on the rock. My house is built on a Savior whose name is Jesus, and he wants you to have your life built on him as well. I'm telling you, you can change a family. You can change your team. You can change your friend group. You can change a school if you build your life on this firm foundation. And so, middle school friends, I'll go back to the question I asked in the beginning: where is your house built? Because, it makes me so excited about what could happen if these hundreds of middle schoolers in this room said, I'm going to build my house on the rock that is Jesus. It will change your life. Let's pray together. Heavenly Father, we just come before you tonight, and we just say thank you. God, we say thank you for this week. We say thank you for the things that you've already been doing this week at Mix. God, I just look out into this room and I just think about all the potential of this room. I think about, God, how you want to use the students in this room. God, the opportunities and the potential are endless if these students make the decision like, I'm going to build my life on Jesus. And God, I'm so thankful that you've given us the opportunity to be builders. And we can be builders who build on the sand, or we can be builders who build our life on you. And so, God, would you empower these students in this room to be students who build their life on the rock, because you are the rock and you will never move. And so, Jesus, we ask all of these things in your name. Amen.